What's the E word? It's the E in DEI that everyone ignores, but we're here to bring it to the forefront. Welcome to the E word.
Hey, Brittany.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing well.
It's
Glad to
been,
see you.
I'm glad to see you too. And especially now, like it's been a really exciting time lately.
Typically, we record, and then immediately after we record, something exciting happens. But we recorded, and then we had like a week's worth. Everything exciting happened that could happen. So please update us.
Well, look, Kamala Harris is a presumptive Democratic nominee for president. Okay. And it is so incredibly exciting on so many levels. Level one, a woman, right?
Correct.
This is
Yes.
awesome, right? On so
Yes.
many different levels. And number two, she's a person of color. She represents the Black community, she represents the South Asian community. And because I'm Jamaican and I can't let that part go, she is in her community because, we claim her
Yes.
and no matter what. But she also represents, the immigrant community, right? And just the fact that she is so many things is really truly representative of this country in,
Yes.
in so many ways. I mean, we might like identify in one particular way, but there are many people that can look at Kamala and see themselves in her beyond, say, race or ethnicity, right? Just in
Yes.
who this accomplished person is, um,
Yes.
and her incredible record. Whether you agree with some decisions or not, right? Just the fact that this woman has been in elective office and service for so many years and has done some incredible things, many things that none of us will ever touch on. All right. You're a little bit deeper than me, actually, because of your background. So, but how do you feel? How do you feel about it?
I feel I feel so excited. My first time voting for a president, I voted for President Obama. I was an Obama organizing fellow. And so it was this really exciting moment where my individual efforts meant something,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I continued to vote. I continued to be involved. And in 2016, I was excited with the idea of voting for a woman. I did vote for a woman. And this time around, to vote for a woman, Black woman, South Asian woman, a woman who's a stepmom. We don't talk about that, but she's not had children by birth, but by marriage. And we often undercount that, right? We've seen the vice presidential nominee on the Republican side talk about, these single women with cats and
Mm-hmm.
what that means. And so I think about what it means for a blended family
Yeah.
to be in the White House. We have that with Joe Biden and, First Lady Jill Biden, but to see it from the other way,
Yeah.
right? Where a woman is coming into a family and is warmly welcomed, right, by that family. I think it's exciting. And I just I feel very, very proud. I say it all the time. I'm a political optimist. So I've been hope scrolling.
Ah.
I've been hope scrolling. We hear about doom scrolling, but I've been hope scrolling just to see so many people excited, and especially since we're constantly worried about the youth vote. The youth vote is traditionally incredibly low in our country. In fact, our country has some of the lowest voting rates in the world. So to see people who are voting for the first time and have the opportunity to vote for the first time and make history is just, I could go on. I won't, but I'm very excited.
I mean, you know what? It's not just us, right? It's so many people that got excited. What, the first night, 44,000 Black women, part of
Yes.
the Win with Black Women movement. I unfortunately didn't know. I knew it was happening when I was on my way to Manhattan to meet a friend from out of town. So we were having dinner. So I didn't get a chance to be on it, but I absolutely would have been on
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
call. Got the text. I was like, oh man. And
I
then
got the text. I sent it out on
exactly.
it was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible to witness that.
Mm.
And please keep, because
No,
we
tell me.
haven't stopped having calls.
Yeah.
I would say just to see women, you think about people like, oh, this person's a celebrity or this person's an executive or whatever, to see everyone just showing up as Black women in solidarity with a Black woman, with a woman of color, with someone who is so firm and so committed to protecting our rights as women and our rights as Americans. I'm getting chills talking about it, but it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. And I remember getting the text, sending the text to a group chat I'm in with about 20 people, and, sending it to every Black woman I know. There's a lot of people. And, for it to be so amazing to the point where, people couldn't even get on, right? People were like, hey, I'm in the waiting room for 30, 40, 50 minutes. To know that many people would take time out. It was a Sunday night, a time where people are getting ready for the week or getting their children ready or, just in whatever space. I was coming back from the airport. So I was like in my car, right, driving, trying to make sure that I got where I was going and could be engaged. It was amazing. And then that was followed up with a call for Black men. 44,000, was it? 45,000? 45,000 and millions of dollars being raised. And that call, and we talk a lot about allyship on this podcast, we saw that there was a call to white women because we know 53% of white women in 2016 voted for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And we know how important that decision was to everyone else afterward. And so Jataka Eddy, who's responsible for the first call, sent out the challenge, right? White women, you need to have a call. And Shannon Watts saw it on Twitter, and I said, I wonder if people are going to respond. And respond they did.
Yep.
Respond they did.
130,000 strong.
130,000 white women.
One time I was like, look, white women, come through. Like, this is the time.
Exactly.
Black women. This is the time.
Exactly.
To come out.
Correct. Correct. Right. And I sent it to my white ladies. I sent it to the white women that I knew. Show up.
Yeah.
I know that we're aligned in at least a few things, right? Maybe we're all attorneys, or we all went to this school, or we all are invested in protecting reproductive freedom, or we all live in the same state. Whatever it was, the point of connection, you want to be an ally, you want it to be meaningful, show up. And from the clips that I've seen, I saw a clip of Connie Britton.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a clip of Pink speaking from her plane. And so I've seen, this is an amazing time just to see, we're so focused on how fractured our society is, but to see everybody coming together as Americans and saying, oh, we can do something about this. Oh, this does matter, because that's the common refrain that we hear. It doesn't matter. It's just one vote. It's rigged. It's already decided. We already know how things are going to go. So to see people coming together and having their citizenship mean something,
Yeah,
it's
that's amazing.
nice.
It's amazing. It's refreshing, right?
Yes.
The excitement is that refreshment, right? Like it provided a
Yes.
jolt to the Democratic Party
Correct.
in a way that wasn't there before. And but it also opens her up to just a lot of disrespect, right?
Yes.
The fact that she is VP of the United States as a person of color, right? Um, has not protected her in any way, right? Holding the second highest office of this country has not
Yes.
protected her from the vitriol that has started to become pervasive um, in the media and everywhere else because of this excitement in part two. Like that
Right.
excitement is scary for opposing groups. And instead of
Right. And the
attacking
critique.
record, right, it is a personal attack
Right.
on her, which obviously as
On
Black
her
women,
laughter. She laughs too hard. Is she likable? Right? We
yeah,
don't talk about these things when it comes to men. I interrupted, but it
you,
just, I keep seeing that. And I said, we're policing joy. We're policing the way that someone expresses joy, to have a big, seemingly genuine belly laugh. Not that way.
exactly. It's funny, like one of my goals, I actually enjoy this about her, right? Because
Mhm.
one of my goals is to have a belly laugh on a daily basis. I don't always get there. I'll laugh, but I'm, that guttural, like real, like you
Right.
said, her joy, that's also healing and
Yes.
in some ways centers you back to your purpose, right? It has some
Yes.
spiritual connection. I was watching, it was a clip, in all fairness, of her talking to Drew Barrymore on her show
Yes.
about her laugh. And she said, I just come from a family that, these are not her words exactly, but she comes from a family where, the expression of joy is natural and common, and women laughed from their gut. That is her norm. That's
Yes.
how she grew up, right? And her message was to just be yourself and don't hold yourself back. And of
Yes.
course, we have all these people saying, yeah, hold yourself back because your laugh is really important to how you run the country. Okay, like
Correct.
you laugh at you,
Correct.
we're going downhill.
Forget your thoughts on foreign policy. Why are you laughing? You're showing all 32.
Yeah,
Too many teeth. Too many teeth. And then this concept of likability, which I I think I'm still trying to wrap my head around what that means. What does it mean to be likable? Is it to be palatable? Because it seems to be an ever moving target, right? What
yeah,
is There's professional, which we all understand is coded to be as akin to a white heterosexual male, stoic male as possible. And then there's likable, which has so much complexity as a woman, because to be likable, you have to have a certain amount of facial symmetry. You have to be a certain size. Your voice can't be too low or too high, but you have to be, serious, but not too serious. You can't be too happy or else you're a ditz. You can smile, but not too much. It'll make you seem as if you're dumb. And so all of these different points, these data points that you're supposed to take in and align yourself with in order to be likable, and it doesn't leave much room to be you.
Not at all. And not to mention the fact that not everyone's going to like you, period. Like you're
Right.
never going to have this perfect likability score. If you just look at your normal relationships and around you, take a sample of 10 or 15 people that are around you, you don't like everybody. You just don't.
Right.
Or there's people you'll tolerate, but you don't want to hang with and go have a drink
Correct.
with or hang with for any lengthy period of time. Like we all have this subset of people, right? And so it's just this weird metric. However, I do understand it to some degree, right? It's our bias. We want to like people. That's our goal.
Right.
And we want to like the person that's going to run our country. I totally get that, right? And so, but we have to recognize that that's not the only measure
Yes.
of competency, right? It's not even any measure of competency, period.
Correct.
But we have to know that that's just going to be, it is what it is. Sometimes when it comes down to all things being equal, in this case it's not equal, but all things being equal, you're going to go with the person you favor more.
Yeah. And that's bias, folks. Right? When you do, when you don't have, we've all seen it. Like, oh, well, what don't you like about this person? I just don't like them.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're attaching career opportunities and advancement and policy to someone's likability. And to your point, yes, it's ideal to say, oh, I like that candidate, or they're an engaging speaker, or whatever it is. But ultimately, I need to know that you can do your job well.
Right.
You can keep us safe. You can help us within reason do what we can to realize the American promise, right? So that's what's most important to most people on its face.
Look, and here's the thing. Most of the American people are not going to be hanging out having a drink with the president of the United States.
Correct.
So liking them really is even less of a metric than anything. Let's just keep it
right.
So look, I'm guilty.
Although Vice President Harris is welcome to have a drink with us. Tea, coffee, whichever you prefer. We're around.
We'll walk with you to the plane. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Have a nice belly laugh, That's how my 6-pack is coming in. Through laughter. Through laughter.
Look, I want to just be honest too and say, like, I'm guilty of this. Like, obviously we're sitting here talking about it. I'm totally guilty of this. I more so have this thing about, I'll say my spirit is not taken to somebody, right? And that's something that is just in my soul that I'm like, I really articulate it. I like, if you wanted me to back that up, I don't have any backative, as Jamaicans would say, right? So, but here I recognize it. And so if I'm in a situation where I have some influence, right, over that person or whatever, I have to check my spirit, right? And say, look, you don't have any backative. And so therefore you need to try to put that to the side and wait and see if anything emerges. Right. Now, there's a little bias in that because I'm waiting to see if anything emerges because I'm already up. So I have to recognize that too. Now, if there's a situation where I don't have any influence, or I honestly don't need to deal with this person, like my spirit don't take to them, I might separate myself. Some people may say that's wrong. It just so happens that my spirit is always right. And that's just from
that's the Cancer, the intuition,
But I have to put it in
the astrological side. Right? Exactly. Right. You have to check it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that because despite, what we say here, it's not that we or I don't do some of these things. It's just about being aware of what we're doing when we do it, and making a conscious decision to self-correct.
Yes. And we've all had that. I've worked with people and I've left the role and I still hang out with those people. We've traveled together, I've gone to weddings and baby showers and birthdays and all of this, all because we work together. And there are some people, once I left, completely fell out of my memory. Right? Like,
Mhm.
very thankful I never have to speak to you ever again.
Right.
And so you're completely right. And so I think when we're thinking about this, when we're having this conversation about likability, it's on the national stage, but I also invite listeners to think about how it's impacting their day to day. When you're considering people for advancement, promotions, hires, lateral hires, any of those things, what are you basing it on? Is it because you like them? Is it because they seem like a good fit? What does potential and promise look like? And does it have some grounding in some sort of objective benchmark?
And just to add to that too, right? And check the other bias around stereotypes, right?
Yes.
So like you just listed out, all of these things that women have to think about in order to be likable or to be seen as competent or professional, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Is your bias on how you perceive women in what traditional role you perceive them in, is that entering the conversation? I had a conversation with someone who was just trying to assess talent on the team. And in that conversation, and it was a male that I was talking to, and all the male people that were being assessed, it was fine. They were competent. They knew what they were doing, blah, blah, blah. But when we were speaking about a woman, right, it was, well, I'm not sure that they'd be right for this role, or don't you think they'd be better at something else, right? And I'm like, well, didn't she say she wanted to do this role? Right? Yeah, she did, but I'm not sure. Well, here's the thing, why are you not sure? Also, look at the circumstances surrounding, why she may not be successful or poised for success going forward. And I listed a few things as to why, from my observation, why I thought they weren't set up for success, and encouraged them to think that before garnering an opinion, right? But it did, from my point of view, feel like an assessment based on some typical stereotypes. Now, of course, because also women have a different cadence, right? To some, right? And that may not seem as authoritative, right? But it can be just as, or maybe even more effective, right? In any particular role, any leadership role or whatever. So again, just adding on to what you're saying is to check when it comes to gender, and then layer on other biases around, ethnicity, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation, etc. Like,
correct.
Does that feel like to you?
Yeah. I'm thinking about, worked with a client who was a woman in leadership and had a tendency to end every sentence almost like a question with an upward inflection. And it's natural to do so, especially for women, because we're socialized to seek consensus and agreement, right? And we're shied away from being too confident for fear of being, rude or brash or conceited or, any of those things. And so she would speak in that way, even when she was very certain of what she was saying. And the reception of that was that she got way more pushback because it seemed as if she was uncertain. It invited uh, her to be challenged, and people didn't believe that it was more of, oh, this is a request, it's not a mandate, right? So do you think you could get this in by next Friday versus I need these deliverables done by next Friday? If you can have it by Thursday, even better.
Right.
Same desire, completely different delivery. Because, we talked about it and I said, okay, well, you're asking them, right? Do you think you could get it in? But it's not a genuine request, right? You don't really care what they have to do. It needs to be done by Friday. And so we reflected on it, and it was because of this fear of people being displeased, of being impolite, of seeming rude, and wanting to be liked. And I'm afraid if I hand down a mandate, if I tell people what to do, I won't be liked. And I said, but this is your job. It is your job to tell people what to do.
Yeah.
And so I think about that as we are watching Vice President Harris in these next 100+ days. It will be very curious to see how people receive her, the way she speaks, the way she debates.
Yeah, I mean, she has no problem telling people what to do. Right?
No.
Whatsoever, which I think
incredible executive leadership skill.
But with that, right, comes, like you said, there are some people who really appreciate being given clear directions and marching
Right.
orders to do X, Y, and Z, clear success metrics, etc. Right? And I think most people actually like that.
Yes.
Unless they don't like you. Right? And then,
exactly. And then it's a problem.
It's a problem. And so what we're seeing is this narrative now that's being seeded around VP Harris being a DEI hire.
Mm.
And I can just say that it's incredibly offensive in the way that they're using it, right?
Because it's used as a pejorative, even though on this podcast, in the past, we've said DEI stands for definitely earned it.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Definitely earned it. Nevertheless, you're completely right.
Yeah. And, I guess the most annoying part about the whole thing is the bastardization of DEI, right?
Yes.
And its narrow focus on promoting racism, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that way. If you listen to this podcast, you know that DEI is a huge category of people, a cross-section of people, and is not necessarily focused on race. We talk a lot about race here because we are talking from our own experiences as Black women, right? But we are keenly aware that there's a lot of intersectionality that goes along with that. And so calling Kamala a DEI hire is offensive in so many ways because it is implying that she's just got there because of her race and she's not competent. I mean, this is highly, maybe the most competent person to run for president ever. Mm-hmm. And the fact that some of these people are calling her incompetent for a role they're not really even credible to hold themselves or to hire for, right, is just insulting beyond belief.
Yep.
I mean, she was a DA in San Francisco.
Correct.
She was Attorney General in California, for elected twice. She served in the role of VP for the past 3 years. Like, that's what a VP is. So she was ready to step in at any time.
Correct.
Should President Biden be unable to do so? And she's not competent or capable of holding the role. I mean, that is an insane assumption to me. And it just doesn't even gel with just life. Okay? In general.
Or reality, right?
Like
And again, so, was it Good Morning America where they had this panel of women, Wisconsin, discussing their beliefs about Vice President Harris. And I really, really want to know, do people truly believe that she fell out of a coconut tree? Whatever the joke is. Do you really think she was walking down the street, chewing gum, having a good time, and that someone said, "Would you like to be Attorney General of California?" And that she shrugged and said, "Sure, why not?
Yeah,
I'll be a DEI hire."
that's how it works.
It's not at all how that works. It is not at all how people are admitted to schools. Additionally, it is not how people graduate, because despite being admitted, admission to schools does not guarantee graduating from school. So receiving your degree, being able to pass the bar,
Right.
which is a multi-day, 8 hours a day exam, it's incredibly grueling. It takes months to study for. Okay? So you will spend 24 hours a whole day being tested. I can assure anyone listening, watching this, I've taken the bar and passed it. There's no DEI accommodation. There's no section. There was no, if someone would have said, you don't need to travel, you can stay home, we'll give you a pass. That didn't happen. It didn't happen for her. There's no section in the Javits Center if you're in New York. They clear all of it out. It is whole warehouses full of desks and completely silent because people are taking this exam for 8 hours.
No, there must be, to prove their point, there must have been
like a DEI lounge.
No,
I might have missed it.
On the tests where it said, if you're black, skip this entire section.
I think I missed that one. Didn't see it. Same with a job. You can't get and keep your role. She's elected twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she must
have. Correct. And California is made up of people of all backgrounds.
Yeah.
So I think this is an invitation for us to come back to reality and think about what we are asking people to believe. We're asking people to believe that people are holding jobs for years, that people are elected, that people are drafting policies, that they are advocating for people and doing it well, that they're entering schools, colleges and law schools and med schools and graduating because of a pass?
Yeah.
No.
Works.
It's not how any of that works.
It's just beyond belief that people do believe that, though, or that they will, and they'll settle for all these digs and misinformation and won't dive deep. Like, people are really focused on clips right now, right? Pulling little clips from back in the day of things that she said and judging her whole personality and her whole platform on maybe 30 seconds, if that, right? And here's another thing, right? particularly with Black people, especially with Black women, you alluded to this earlier, is that we also feel like it's also put on us that we have to be right all the time. We cannot have a mistake or a misstep.
Correct. We've gotten into whole wars due to mistakes.
100%, not
Right.
by Black women. But regardless, when you first take on any job, guess what happens? Mistakes.
Correct.
You're learning, right?
Correct.
You're not perfect, right? And so if you are judged by one moment in time, one gaffe, one mistake, and worse by 30 seconds of something you may have said that may be accurate or maybe, out of context, whatever. That is not doing you as the American people any justice, any good, right? It is a disservice to the country that you don't educate yourself on more of these issues, but also don't realize or take into account that people are human, right? And I understand it's a big platform. I understand mistakes have, huge meaning, but we are still human and those things will happen. But as a Black woman, you feel like you don't have any space for that at all, which actually can make you better at your job. Because
that's why DEI stands for definitely earned it, because you understand that your margin for error is infinitesimally small. Okay, you can't do it. And this is when we're looking at people, especially leaders, we're looking for decisiveness more than accuracy. There are leaders of organizations, leaders of countries who've made huge gaffes. But in the moment, they were so decisive, we felt confident.
Right.
And what we're witnessing here is who's allowed to. America is showing us who we can make a mistake with, who we can lose with.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm hearing is she can't run because she can't win. There's no way she can win. And this goes back to your point about perfection. Why do we believe that? And why do we feel safe losing with, we need Biden. We need a straight, white, elderly male. This is the only person who can win the election. Well, history 44 shows us that's not true.
Right.
But why is it that we only feel safe losing when this is the person that's representing who we're losing, right? Why is it okay that white men are the only people who can make mistakes, public mistakes, lose millions of dollars?
It's our trauma, right? It's our collective trauma that we believe that the savior is always a white male, right? And in doing so, we don't make space for anybody else to prove that they can step up to the job. And so that's the norm. It's the norm for many groups. It's not just white people, it's across the board. And so we have to, again, consciously check our bias around that and ask ourselves just that question. Why do we believe that? Why can't we believe something else? Right?
And I think that this is also, and it's harkening back to Toni Morrison, and I won't do it justice, but I'll try my best. Essentially, when we think about racism and these preconceived notions, it's not only imprisoning or limiting the other. Mm-hmm. It's imprisoning and limiting the people that we prop up as competent as well. It's imprisoning and limiting white men as well. They may not think it all, people may say, oh no, they have tons of advantage. But the prison of pressure and perfectionism is overwhelming. And we've seen it happen. We've just seen someone die from working too hard, working 120-hour weeks consistently.
Yeah.
You literally worked yourself to death because you're trying to fit within this expectation that doesn't work for anyone.
Right. It liberates everyone in so many ways when you learn to think a little bit differently. And I think we're at a turning point in the country where things just need to shift, right? We
Yes.
can't keep doing the same thing over and over, right? We all know that mantra, right?
Right.
But keep doing the same thing over and over with this. So why not give it a try, right? Let's see what happens when we do something a little different. And you galvanize a whole other group of people. You uplift them, you make them feel good when they can see themselves, going back to the beginning of this conversation, in a candidate, and hopefully, from my view, the president of the United States, and that perspective that's opened up,
Yes.
and how that can benefit so many people. America is a melting pot, right? Yes, it may have more of certain groups than others, right? But we can't ignore that there are other people that are part of the mix. And
Mhm.
our highest offices, just like we talk about the workplace, should represent the diaspora of people that make up the United States of America, so that we can continue to be united. We are very separated right now. We may actually remain so for a while because there are some deep-seated thoughts, right, that
Mhm.
have emerged in the past 8 years, and I don't see them going away. And I want to say this other thing too, because of our country's history, and racism, whether overt or not, is still, really embedded in the fabric of our nation. When Kamala stepped into the VP role, and now definitely, in hopefully, right, as
Yeah.
president, right, she opens herself up, or she's not opening herself up. Let me correct my language. It opens her up to a lot more dangerous vitriol and action, right? That comes associated with the role in general, but with so much hatred that comes behind some of these things that we're hearing. One of my, I don't know, I guess dreams, I think dreams is like too big of a word, but I really want to know the behind the scenes of what the Obamas
Mhm.
experienced. I don't think we'll ever really know, to be honest. I think that's for friends and family. But
Sure.
I can't imagine the sacrifice that they put themselves through mentally and physically, and their children, to hold this highest office and open the door for some hope, right?
Yes.
That we needed as a people, right?
Mhm.
And Kamala's doing that too, but she's at great sacrifice,
Yes.
personal sacrifice.
Right.
So I just want people to recognize, right, that even if she wins, there's a cost to that,
Absolutely.
and that she stepped up to try to take it, and it's a greater cost than any other president, maybe other than, maybe not Obama, right? But that it has
Mhm.
ever taken up, because of who she is and what she represents as a person.
Absolutely. And I think what we're witnessing are the many stages of grief for a
Mm.
particular portion of the country. And ultimately, the last stage of grief is acceptance. And I look forward to that time of acceptance because as it stands now, as Vice President Harris said, we are not going back.
No, we're not. We're going forward. And I just hope that this lifetime allows me to see two presidents that are non-white at the end of the day.
Yes.
I want to see that in my lifetime. I never thought that I would see it when Obama was elected. I really didn't. And I remember where I was. I was really in my bedroom. Me
Same.
and my mom were watching. My dad had gone to bed because I don't think he thought he was going to win.
Yeah.
And son, I think, was like 5 years old, didn't know what was happening, right? And we were up late. And I remember when he won, we just sat there. There was no screaming or anything. It
Yeah.
was just looking at the television in utter disbelief.
Wow.
Ability, right?
Yeah.
In the people's ability to recognize that greatness in a woman too.
Hmm.
And I was just like, I just couldn't believe it. And of course, now my son is growing up in a world that had a black president, right? So
Right.
calculus there, and I'm hoping that this becomes a norm that we see other people of color be represented in the highest office.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess this whole podcast has been a resounding endorsement.
Yes. Yeah.
We shall see what happens in the months.
We will keep you all updated.
Yes. Well, thanks for sharing this moment with you. I want to thank you because sharing this moment with you, Brittany, is really important as, um, this is something we care so dearly about. And to see this represented in this way, I think is just, I don't know, it's just a highlight of doing this work with you.
Likewise. Likewise. Thank you, Karen.
Until next time.
See you later.